You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello, and welcome to the Reefer Reporters with Glenn Prentice and myself, Cindy Howell. It is, oh my gosh, it's October already, October 6th, 2022, and we are here live from the Legacy420.com news desk on the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network, YouTube channel, and Facebook pages. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing good, but I'm going with the avatar again because, my shoulder's still screwed and I hurt my foot last night and my hair is all a mess. And yeah, so you get my avatar this morning. But beyond that, I'm doing absolutely great. How are you?
I think I'm doing a little better than you this morning.
Yeah. I had everybody telling me last night that I should be wrapped up in bubble wrap and, maybe.
We all have those times.
Yeah, it's better. I'd rather this than something more serious. So thankfully, it's just bruised, and I will be hobbling for a week, and then hopefully okay. Yeah. Well, we have got 10 stories here for you this morning, and we might as well get at it. Hey, Glenn?
Sure.
Here we go. Doing all this, clicking buttons, heading over to StratCan. Prince George RCMP investigating after 3 break-and-enters reported at 3 cannabis stores.
Police in Prince George, BC say they have arrested 3 and are still looking for 2 other suspects following 3 recent break-ins at cannabis stores. In a media release, the RCMP said the first break-and-enter happened just before midnight on Monday, October 3rd. At a cannabis store at 1500 block in Victoria Street. The store in question was Zaga's Cannabis Shop. The second incident occurred around 1 a.m. Tuesday, October 4th at Flora, Prince George on the 3300 block of Massey Drive. Several items were stolen from both stores. And around 3:30 a.m. on October 4th, RCMP received reports that a third break-and-enter had taken place at another cannabis store called Grasshopper Retail. At the 400 block of George Street. As with the first 2 instances, multiple suspects were seen breaking into the store.
Wow. A representative from one of the 3 stores told StratCan that the individuals took display items rather than backroom inventory. Images provided from a video from the third break-and-enter were identified as the suspects in the 2 previous break-and-enters, and they were known to police. RCMP arrived on the scene of the third break-and-enter and used a police service dog to locate 1 male and 2 youth suspects. All suspects were arrested and transported to the Prince George RCMP detachment to await court proceedings. Adam Todd Tyler Buston Lewis, who's 21, has been charged with break-and-enter with intent to commit an offense in relation to the last of the calls, according to the court records reported to the Prince George Citizen.
The initial cost of stolen items and damages to the business is estimated at over $30,000. Such break-ins at cannabis stores in Canada are not uncommon. Police in New Brunswick recently released information about a break-in at an unlicensed cannabis store in Madawaska, Massillette First Nation. Earlier this year, police in Ontario were investigating 2 break-ins at cannabis stores.
Yeah, it's something that's going to happen. I noticed that just before legalization here in Nova Scotia, we had a lot of people that were trying to go after the quote-unquote gray area dispensaries, and figuring that the gray area dispensaries weren't going to call because they were operating, in the gray area or under the law, right? Or not inside the law.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, sadly. It's it's not just because it's a whole new market and people are going after it. It's what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot more crime everywhere. So cannabis is not immune to that.
I also found it really funny that in the article they mentioned they took display items, not the back items, the backroom items, which would have been the cannabis, I would assume. They took the display items.
Well, all the display items are like, I mean, like they're full bottles or they're full bags, right? Like, you know,
Okay,
like,
okay. So
yeah,
they actually took the bottles of cannabis, not the stuff that's stored in the back.
yeah, they just took what was easiest to get, went in, grabbed, and went out, right? So probably to be quick, and that might be why they hit 2 or 3 stores or more that they might not know about, right? That
I just thought you go in the back, you're going to find boxes, not bottles. You know, it's going to be
yeah,
a big box.
yeah, yeah. So who Lord knows what they were thinking, but there you go. They it's kind of scary if you're working in the industry.
They weren't thinking very much if they already knew who they were as soon as they saw them.
Yeah, known to police. What?
Yeah.
We are heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. Hemp Incorporated has a 315% revenue increase throughout the last 3 quarters.
A multi-state cannabis company in the U.S. has reported some recent success with its distribution endeavors. The Hemp Incorporated announced that its revenue had been steadily increasing throughout 2022. In comparison to last year, the company says it saw a 146% increase in quarter 1, a 383% rise in quarter 2, and a 455% incline in quarter 3. Hemp Incorporated observed a 315% revenue increase overall this year in comparison to 2021. 315%. Wow.
That's crazy. I mean, good for them.
Great. We've been hearing about all these companies that are dying, and these guys here are obviously doing very well.
Yeah, I'm excited for them. The company says its revenue growth can be attributed to selling CBD products via its King of Hemp USA website and through the recent distribution of oil-absorbing products such as Spill Be Gone from its North Carolina facility. Additionally, the company produces a product called Drill Wall that oil, water, and gas companies use as an additive in their drilling fluid. The facility in Spring Hope, North Carolina is 85,000 square feet and sits on a 9-acre property. The company says it is one of the largest industrial multi-purpose hemp processing facilities on the continent.
Wow. They also produce a variety of cannabinoid products at its other facility in Vegas, including CBD, CBDA, CBN, CBG, and CBGA derivatives. The company's stock stayed flat. Of course, it stayed flat. I was reading a little while ago where the companies all of a sudden they made lots of money and their stock went down. Well, I don't understand that one, but
yeah, it's I don't understand how the stocks work in all of that. But I mean, like they were talking about CBD, CBG, CBN, that they produce all of these wonderful products. I had the ability to try CBN while I was in Ontario. I got a cart full of CBN, and it is definitely the sleep cannabinoid. I wasn't overly tired. I sat back in the hotel room I was in when I got it. I put the cart on the vape on the battery, and I remember taking 2 or 3 hauls off it, and I woke up in the morning with I had just passed out, and I never just pass out. I didn't get in bed. I didn't lay down. I was still leaning up against the wall, vape in hand.
Now, after that, have you tried it again after that?
No, because I haven't put it in my bedroom. But every time I look in my cannabis kit, I think, gosh, I got to put that in my bedroom and try that again.
We'll keep this updated. I'd like to know, because I'm thinking maybe if you were really tired that time and this time you're not, I want to know your reaction on the second time, right?
Absolutely. It does no good for me to really report on it it does, but it's got me curious and it's got other people curious. But I've got to put it in my bedroom and keep it by my bed, because then I will, like when I'm sitting there at night, I can do a couple of vapes and see if it does the same thing to me for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool stuff, though. Very cool stuff. We are now heading over to my favorite publication, The Fresh Toast. I love this publication. Senators introduce amendments for legalizing medical cannabis for veterans.
About time. One of the measures would allow veterans to legally possess and use cannabis under federal law, as recommended by doctors in accordance with state law. Recently, senators filed a pair of cannabis amendments to a large-scale defense bill, the National Defense Authorization Act. Cannabis-related amendments proposed for the Senate version of the NDAA include legalizing medical cannabis for military veterans and pressuring the VA to provide federal home loan benefits to veterans in the cannabis industry. Senator Brian Schatz, who's a Democrat, introduced an amendment that mirrors the language of a standalone bill, the Veterans Medical Marijuana Safe Harbor Act, that he's sponsoring, reported Marijuana Moment.
One of these measures come into law. One of the measures would allow veterans to legally possess and use cannabis under federal law, as recommended by, I love that, right? As recommended by doctors in accordance with state law. VA doctors would also be allowed to issue such recommendations for the first time. Additionally, it would require the VA to study cannabis's therapeutic potential for pain and reducing opiate misuse. The text said that Congress must provide as many funds as necessary to carry out the investigation. In addition,
I have a problem with this because I know what's going to happen. This is still Schedule 1. And if it's not moved off Schedule 1, none of this is going to happen.
No, and my hope is with them, this is one of the other keys that might help push them forward to
pressure.
Pressure. Like, I mean, like, I truly hope so, and not just for the veterans, for everybody who could use it, right? You know, in addition, Senators Jackie Rawson and Cynthia Loomis, one Democrat and one Republican, separately filed an amendment to the NDAA that simply expresses the sense of Congress that veterans should not be denied access to Department of Veteran Affairs home loans on the basis of income derived from state legalized cannabis activities.
Yep, I think that's true too. However, many veterans continue to be denied access to home loans on the basis of income derived from state legalized cannabis activities. I wonder if this is even the bud tenders and everybody that they can't claim anything for loans. Related to the above, the senators said the VA should improve communication with eligible lending institutions to reduce confusion among lenders and borrowers on this matter. And I go back to Schedule 1 again. The lenders are stuck. They can't do much until they take that off Schedule 1. And
they're scared too. Like,
and you can't blame them because it's quasi legal. It's federally illegal. So I don't know how you do it. So last week, Senator Ron Wyden, who's a Democrat from Oregon, filed measures that would prevent the denial of federal security clearances for people over cannabis use at any time, while the other would limit the protection of only to people who admit to past use prior to entering national security vetting. Why should you have to admit to any use? Why would that even be a question?
Yeah, exactly. Right. According to one of the senator's amendments, the use of cannabis by an individual shall not be determinative to adjunctions to the individual eligibility for access to classified information or eligibility to hold a sensitive position. The other one, which Wyden is sponsoring with Senator Christian Gillibrand, who's a Democrat in New York, focuses on past cannabis use.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I started off really positive on that article, and then as soon as I realized that it's Schedule 1, that none of it's going to happen. I hope you're right. I hope it's a pressure campaign, and they'll finally force them to take it off Schedule 1.
Yeah, well, it's we've been watching this for a few years now, hoping it's going to happen, because them deschedulizing it is going to make a worldwide difference. Not just for the United States, not just for their veterans, but for the whole world, because they are the strongest financial. We all look to them, and our banks here in Canada are still terrified of cannabis because it's on Schedule 1 in the United States, a whole other country. And it's just the way that
they can't do studies. They have the money, like you said, they have the technology, they have the doctors, and it would, if they would take it off Schedule 1, it would force the whole world to change their view on it.
Yeah. So let's, I hope that more things come along that make them look at that, and they eventually get it done.
I think the pressure's building slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Off to the next one. Counting stories, folks. We are heading over to MJ Biz Daily. Cannabis advocates face off as redistricting changes congressional map.
As cannabis executive watched the 2022 midterm elections, one factor that could affect races for seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and the likelihood of federal cannabis reform is congressional redistricting. Every 10 years after the U.S. Census, states are required to update their boundaries for voting districts. Federal law requires that districts have roughly equal populations and that they don't discriminate based on race or ethnicity. Who is in charge of redistricting varies by state, but in most states, the responsibility belongs to the political party that controls its legislative chambers and governorships. Unsurprisingly, the political parties that control redistricting efforts often try to gerrymander voting districts in their favor, but there are some checks against that happening, such as the courts. The winners and the losers?
Just totally off topic. Everybody go try to say redistricting 5 times fast. After the 2020 census, states drew up their newest voter district maps, taking into account population changes, which in some regions resulted in a gain or loss of congressional seats. There are 435 seats in the House. California, Illinois, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia each lost congressional seats. By contrast, Colorado, Florida, Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon each gained 1 seat, while Texas added 2. The new maps are being used for the first time in this election cycle and have already had an impact in some key primaries involving cannabis reform supporters. The new maps are also expected to have an impact in November, when friends and foes of cannabis compete for seats in the House.
As far as the House and what it could look like next Congress and what that means for cannabis, the most important vote any elected member of Congress can cast is their choice for leadership of the chamber, said Justin Streakow, founder of the Better Organizing to Win Legalization Political Action Committee. Wow, that's a long name, which works for federal cannabis legalization. This is because the House Majority Leader can expedite sending bills to the floor for a vote. And right now, Streakow said, Democratic lawmakers are much more favorable to cannabis reform than Republican leaders in the House and Senate. Until someone starts donating to their campaigns, then they'll change.
That's right.
Given votes have been on cannabis issues in the House, in April, members voted 220 to 204 in favor of the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. For example, a handful overturned House seats could make a difference.
It's hard to say which party has benefited the most from redistricting. However, the popular political blog 538 noted the GOP is positioned for a net gain of 3 to 4 seats in 2022, just thanks to the new lines above. While we won't know the impact of redistricting until after the November election, cannabis advocates pointed to races in 5 states that could have an impact on legalization efforts. Florida, since 2016, Reverend Al Lawson, a Democrat who voted for the MORE Act and the Safe Banking Act, represented North Florida's 5th congressional district. You're giggling. I want to know why.
No, I was just drinking. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sounded like you were giggling. To me, anyway, that's because I'm wearing my earbud, right? But redistricting has reconfigured this district. Florida's new district maps put Lawson's hometown, Tallahassee, in the state's 2nd congressional district, which is currently represented by anti-cannabis Republican Neil Dunn. The National Organization for the Reformation of Cannabis Laws, marijuana laws, because it's called NORML, gave Dunn a D- on his political scorecard.
Morgan Fox, NORML's political director, said the race is noteworthy because a pro-reform incumbent who would have won comfortably in his former district is now facing a tough battle against a Republican incumbent staunchly opposed to cannabis reform. Georgia. Redistricting could also remove a pro-cannabis vote in Georgia. There, Representative Lucy McBath and Carolyn Bordeaux, both Democrats who supported the MORE Act, had represented 2 reliably Democratic districts. But under the new voter maps, parts of their districts were consolidated, leaving McBath's district redder than before and Bordeaux's bluer. As a result, McBath ran against Bordeaux in a primary and won. McBath's former district, meanwhile, is expected to be won by Rich McCormick, a Republican whose position on cannabis legalization is unknown. This one sticks out because McBath's old district is likely to flip red in November, Fox said.
Oh, well, in Michigan, in the state's redrawn 3rd congressional district, freshman Republican Peter Meyer, who co-sponsored Nancy Macy's legalization bill known as the States Reform Act, lost his primary battle against John Gibbs, a candidate backed by former President Donald Trump, and whose cannabis positions are unclear. In November, Gibbs will take on Democrat Hillary Scholten, who lost to Meyer in 2020. The Michigan Cannabis Industry Association gave Scholten an A grade on its political scorecard. The new district reportedly leans Democrat. Also in Michigan, redistricting pitted two pro-cannabis Democrats in primary battle where Representative Haley Stevens defeated Representative Andy Levin. The key difference between the two is that Levin co-sponsored the MORE Act while Stevens did not, although she did vote for it.
Illinois and New York. Each of these states lost a House seat, and because of redistricting, pro-reform Democratic incumbents faced off against each other. That means Illinois and New York will likely have 2 fewer pro-reform candidates in their delegations. In New York, Representative Jerry Nadler defeated Representative Karen Maloney. Both were co-sponsors of the MORE Act. In Illinois, Representative Mary Newman, a Democrat who co-sponsored the MORE Act, lost her primary battle in the state's 6th district to Representative Sean Casten, who voted for the MORE Act but didn't co-sponsor it. It is disappointing to lose co-sponsors to this redistricting, Fox said.
Absolutely. So, yeah, who knows if it's going to be better or worse or the same. We'll have to wait for November, I guess, to find out.
Yep. It sounds like a lot of the pro-reform advocates are kind of facing off against each other, and one gets knocked out that way.
Yeah, which is too bad because they would like to keep all of them in, but it's going to be interesting to see what the preliminary says in November for sure. Yep. Heading to our last story before the break, heading back to my favorite publication, the Fresh Toast. Who's smoking cannabis in the U.S.? Here's a breakdown.
As this landscape of cannabis users continues to shift, here are some interesting findings as to exactly who is smoking cannabis these days. If you're a Pink Floyd light show, you're at a Pink Floyd light show, the odds are the person next to you is high. That's true statement. But what about when you are at a grocery store or waiting in a procession for your college diploma or in a voting booth? Cannabis users come in all forms. They don't all look the same, especially in today's world, where cannabis is much less associated with its burnout stigma that clung to it during the war on drugs era. In fact, there really is no hype of cannabis user, or no type of cannabis user, at least not according to the most recent studies. Usage is up in many categories, from baby boomers to young women, with many states and companies loosening laws and policies on drug testing at work. The odds are that your co-worker is a cannabis enthusiast may have gone up significantly as well. As this landscape of cannabis users continues to shift, here are some interesting findings as to exactly who is smoking cannabis these days.
No, cannabis users aren't lazy stoners. The idea that cannabis users are unmotivated high school dropouts is a stereotype that is disappearing, mostly due to the fact that it is simply not true. According to the most recent Gallup poll, both college graduates and those without a college degree enjoy smoking cannabis in similar numbers. According to the poll, 12% of college graduates say they consume cannabis, while 18% of non-graduates say they consume. The authors of the June 2021 study wrote that cannabis users are equal to or more likely to exercise than non-users, adding that the commonly held perception that cannabis users are largely sedentary is not supported by the data on young and middle-aged adults. So the idea that cannabis makes you lose your ambition is not exactly a sound argument.
Democrats are more green than Republicans for now. According to the same Gallup poll, 20% of Democrats smoke cannabis, while only 12% of Republicans they indulge. And I'd say 8% of them are lying at least.
Yeah.
With independent voters coming in between 2 at 17%. This statistic alone is not at all surprising, seeing how historically Democrats in power have historically been more supportive of cannabis legalization or legislation. However, Republicans and Republican lawmakers are starting to come around to the idea of cannabis legalization, suggesting that perhaps in the not too distant future, Republicans may use or at least support cannabis as much as Democrats. And I will say they definitely will. Soon as money starts flowing into their campaigns, they'll all be running to support this.
Absolutely. Between that and learning what it can do to help their loved one who's just been diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, absolutely.
I'm not even sure that's true of Republicans anymore. I see the way the abortion thing is going down in the States, and I compare them now. I don't know. I've just lost faith. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. Several studies, including one poll we recently reported on, suggests that support for cannabis legalization with the Republican Party is on the rise, possibly due to all this money. Republican candidates are even currently supporting and drafting cannabis legalization or legislation. This means that in some states, people can vote for a Republican and vote for cannabis legalization at the same time. Times have changed. Baby boomer pot use is booming. Oh, I agree with that. It may have taken several decades, legalization, and a change in the general society view of cannabis, but it seems as though baby boomers are finally starting to embrace cannabis use in their golden years. Consider that not even 10 years ago, 0.4% of adults 65 and older said that they used cannabis in the past year. Now that's 10 times that at 4%. Benjamin Han, a New York University School of Medicine professor, told Reuters in 2020. Han also told the lead author of a study conducted by JAMA Internal Medicine, which discovered this increased cannabis usage he mentioned. While this group still does not consume cannabis nearly as much as the younger generations, this increase means that there is perhaps less of a wall between generations when it comes to cannabis use, as some might think. But I agree with, like, the numbers are coming up. I think they're bigger than, I think the 0.4% to start with was right. I think it's bigger than 4% now.
I'd say you're right in Canada for sure.
Especially, yeah. People are just, because of the reefer madness that they grew up with from birth till like 4 years ago, they're hesitant to say, yeah, I use cannabis. And I think that's makes a big difference in the numbers. The stigma still isn't completely gone for the baby boomers.
My mother lives in an old age building. It's not a home. It's like an apartment building for people 65 and older. I would say, and I've talked to a bunch of people in the building. Most of them are very, very nice, in their 80s. And I'm going to say probably 50% of them have told me that they've used it in the last year. Almost all of them ate it. It was an edible. There seems to be a couple people in the building that are making brownies for everybody. And they're enjoying it and getting a little bit relief from it.
Excellent. Good for them.
And that's only my own little anecdote, but that's the way I kind of judge everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
While many demographics have shown an increase in cannabis use, none have yet shot up recently as much as Generation Z women. Year-over-year sales to Gen Z women, defined as those born 97 or later, grew the fastest in 2020 compared to any other cohort at 151%. Wow. There are many possible reasons for this large spike. Some reasons include the ease and inviting atmosphere of cannabis retail facilities, and also the growing interest in use of low doses of cannabis to treat anxiety and other conditions instead of prescriptions. The future of cannabis is female, said Brittany Gomez, managing director of Brightfield Group. And I'd say she's definitely right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see so more women popping up in the cannabis industry than ever before.
Yep.
Yeah.
It brings some sanity.
Yeah. With that, guess what? It's time for our medication break. So Glenn and I will be right back after this medication session. You are watching us, the Reefer Reporters, here on People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network, YouTube channel, and Facebook pages.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
I'm going to split the page. Okay, and we're back again. We had another medication session completed, and I think we're going to get this day completed. So we best get right back at it. I'm reading what Al wrote for me, so he comes up with really great lines, dude. Yeah, so we might as well get right back at it. He's right. We are heading on to the first story of the second half of the show. We are heading over to Mugglehead Magazine, and they are telling us that Tilray relaunches oral solution under Irish Cannabis Access Program.
And Tilray Brands Incorporated has relaunched its product sales in Ireland under the Medical Cannabis Access Program. The company continues to expand its presence in Europe. This Tuesday, it announced its product will be easily accessible and covered for patients that are eligible. Patients will get access to the oral solution, but more Tilray products will be available once regulations allow. However, possessing cannabis is illegal in Ireland unless people have a ministerial license. Medical cannabis use is highly regulated and approved only for some medical conditions. In December 2016, the ministry issued the first license to a 2-year-old child with Dravet syndrome. Don't know what that is.
No, we are extremely proud to relaunch in Ireland with the expanded footprint. Head of international business, Denise Faltischek said, the MCAP reimbursement approval is a tremendous step in providing patients with greater access to Tilray's high-quality medical cannabis products that address their needs. We remain dedicated to do our part to increase access for patients in need around the world.
And Tilray sells THC and CBD products in 20 countries. Tilray was first licensed producer of medical cannabis in Canada and sells brands including Afria, Broken Coast, and Symbiose. The company stock went up by 2.3% on Tuesday to $4.02 in the Toronto Securities Exchange. And their stock actually went up.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow. Okay. I'm clicking back to clicking buttons again. We got her. Haha. We are heading over back over to Ganjapreneur. Morocco issues first medical cannabis cultivation permits.
Morocco has issued its first 10 permits for cannabis production after passing a medical cannabis legalization law last year. Reuters reports. State agency said farmers who organize into cooperatives in the northern mountain areas of Al Hoceima, Toussaint, and Cochafan will be allowed to cultivate cannabis to meet the needs of the newly legal market. The bill approved in February 2021 said that Morocco's legal cannabis trade was worth about $15 billion, the majority of which, $14.5 billion, goes to drug traffickers rather than farmers, who get $500 million. Morocco had previously allowed cannabis cultivation in some rural areas under a special status, but 7 years ago reduced the amount of land where the practice was allowed from 134,000 hectares to 47,000 hectares. That's a huge difference. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. In 2015, the United Nations on Drugs and Crime identified Morocco as the world's largest producer of hashish. Like a good Moroccan hash. And 235 tons of hash were seized in the country that year alone. The report found 80% of the national hash production is destined for export, leaving 20% for the local market. The law is intended to improve the incomes of farmers who had protested over income inequality in recent years, and protect them from drug traffickers who control the cannabis trade and export it illegally to Europe. Production under the law can only focus on cannabis for medical, pharmaceutical, and industrial purposes.
Well, glad to hear more laws are changing, more countries.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I find it funny that they've been seizing all this hashish for all these years and basically destroying it. And they said it's a $15 billion industry there. Well, why wouldn't they have taken advantage of that? $15 billion for a country like Morocco is probably a lot. It's a lot for any country.
It's huge, for sure. For sure. Okay, well, we're heading over to High Times. A committee in Colombia approved adult use legalization proposal.
A legislator in Colombia, a local representative or liberal representative, Carlos Ardila, processed the cannabis bill that passed in the first commission of the House of Representatives on October 4th, with 31 votes in favor and 2 against. Approved in the first debate, our draft legislative act to regulate cannabis and guarantee tax revenues for municipalities, districts, and departments, Arda wrote on Twitter. The bill would establish regulations and taxes for legal cannabis sales and set up a support system for revenue to be shared among local cities, as well as health, education, and agriculture. If passed into law, it would amend Article 49 of the Constitution, which is necessary in terms of cannabis, almost the first step that must be taken because the political prohibition is consigned there, Liberal Representative Juan Carlos Lozada told RCN Radio. It sounds like it's kind of like that Schedule 1 in the States.
Yeah. Article 49 gives all citizens the right to health care, which is the responsibility of the government to organize. Public health and environmental protection are public services for which the state is responsible. All individuals are guaranteed access to services that promote, protect, and restore health, the Constitution states. However, it does also add that the possession and the consumption of narcotic and psychoactive drugs is prohibited, except for medical purposes. And of course, they would put cannabis right in underneath that. According to Adrilia, adult use cannabis taxes would have constitutional protection and should be allocated exclusively to municipalities, districts, and departments. In reference to the three pillars of support: health, education, and agriculture, Adrilla would see cannabis tax funds support the country's people. Here we propose that it be the Minister of Finance or the government which collects these resources and then turn or transfer them to the municipalities so that they attend to the negative impacts of cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Now that the proposal was approved by the first commission of the House of Representatives, it will be next sent to the plenary session of the House of Representatives. Representative Losada also recently proposed a cannabis bill in July, which wants to amend Colombia's Constitution, Article 49, as well as Article 287 and 317 to allow adult use cannabis legalization. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said the country's first leftist president took office in August. During his inaugural address, he criticized the failures of the war on drugs and called for a new strategy to target illegal drug trafficking. In September, he called on Latin America to end the conflict. I propose to you as president of one of the most beautiful countries on earth and one of the most blood-stained and violent to end the war on drugs and thus allow our people to live in peace, Petro said in a speech. It's about time.
Yeah. Colombia is, he's right, beautiful country and scary.
A country that hardly anybody wants to go to because of the their represent. Oh, sorry, I can't talk.
Because of the war on drugs and
that's it.
And as he says, the blood-stained and violent country.
Yeah.
It makes it very scary for anybody that is a tourist, right?
Mm-hmm.
The war on drugs has lasted 40 years. If we do not correct the course and this continues another 40 years, the United States will see 2.8 million die of overdoses. And I think that's an underestimate, which is not produced in our Latin America, Petra said. You will see millions of African Americans be imprisoned in their private prisons. The prisoner will become a business of prison companies.
It is now.
Yeah, been that way for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In July 2021, former President Ivan Duque signed legislation to legalize medical cannabis for export in Colombia. Colombia starts to play big, and with this decree, we are putting ourselves at the forefront in terms of regulatory competitiveness, at least in Latin America and the Caribbean, he said. We are opening the space to do much more in cosmetics, food and beverages, and even textiles. Colombia initially approved legislation that regulated cannabis products in 2016, but dry flower export was still prohibited.
Meanwhile, the hemp industry continues to thrive. Former NBA Detroit Pistons athlete Isaiah Thomas owns a hemp company called One World Products based in Vegas, Nevada, but with operations in Colombia, where it recently received $10 million in financing. We are delighted that our newest institutional investor clearly values the vision and tremendous growth potential that we see for OWP, Thomas said. Their second equity investment provides additional capital that will be used to continue to scale our operations in Colombia, enhance industrial sales of hemp products to customers, and expand our carbon credits program. That's another thing the war on drugs did. It stopped the hemp trade, flattened its track, which is a real bad thing that happened for our planet.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Colombia stepping up and trying to do this is going to have very, very large impacts on the quote unquote war on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe you're right.
Yeah, good on Colombia. We are heading over to the next story. Back to MJ Biz Daily. Australia's Little Green Pharma inks cannabis supply deal with Cannamedical.
Australian cannabis producer Little Green Pharma struck a deal to supply high THC medical cannabis to Cologne, Germany-based Cannamedical. In its fourth medical cannabis supply agreement, the Australian company has inked with wholesalers and distributors in Germany. The Western Australia-based company's previous deals with 420 Pharma, Eloy Sant, and Dimacan. The cannabis for the latest contract will come from Little Green Pharma's wholly owned subsidiary in Denmark, the company said in a news release.
The product has potential value of more than 4.5 million, which is 3 million euros, over 2 years. Cannamedical has licenses to import medical cannabis into Germany, where it's distributed or exported within the European Union. Holy Joe Jitzel, that was a hard sentence for me to get out. I don't even know why. It wasn't that hard of a sentence.
It's been a hard day for both of us.
Oh my.
I'm tripping over my tongue.
Yeah, ever since that one word, redistricting. Yeah, that one. That was ever since that word, I have been tripping over everything for sure. Yeah, so we're doing good. We're doing good. We have skipped right through. We had a couple of shorter stories, so therefore we've done really well with timing so far this week. And we're heading to our last story, and we've got a few minutes that we can chat about this. I'm really excited about this story coming from Mugglehead Magazine. Vancouver mushroom dispensaries continue to operate in legal gray area, and I had the opportunity last summer to visit Dana Larson's mushroom dispensary, and it's pretty awesome.
I love the picture that they have here. There's so many different kinds of mushrooms in this one little picture here.
Yeah.
An assortment of stores in Vancouver continue to openly sell certain substances and plants in a manner that might land you in jail if you were in many other parts of the world. Psilocybin mushrooms are generally the main retail item in these new dispensaries, but one is even carrying more powerful psychoactive compounds like LSD or DMT. That store also has peyote, a psychoactive cactus known to be valued by indigenous cultures for its consciousness-altering properties and spiritual significance. I wonder how they're not getting raided with the LSD and DMT there.
I honestly, I can't speak to that. I have no idea. That would be a really great question for Dana Larson, of course. Yeah. Who, I mean, it's his dispensary that we are talking about here. Yeah. I've been there to visit that dispensary, and they have more than just that there as well. I mean, they sell cocoa leaf, which is what we pull cocaine out of. Now, cocaine, as we know, after it's been, had all those chemicals hit it and whatnot, it's a very bad drug. But the cocoa leaf, on the other hand, the plant, before they extract and before they throw chemicals at it, et cetera, is actually, it's got amazing anesthetic properties. And it makes me think of how we have criminalized tobacco over the years. Yeah. Tobacco in its true form, grown from the ground and picked from the ground, is a beautiful medicine. It's used in many rituals with the indigenous, and they use it to give thanks, et cetera. So it's been demonized, right? And I believe that the cocoa leaf has been demonized as well via cocaine.
Yeah, it just amazes me. There's another picture there, and I guess the store over it says mushroom dispensary, but it also says peyote, LSD, and DMT right on the sign. Yeah. Which it amazes me that they're just, because I know what would have happened a couple years ago. There would have been 100 police officers there in a day.
Yeah, and he's been operating for I think a few years now.
Wow.
Like, yeah, once we got legalization, Dana is very much an activist in his heart, and he said, okay, well, on to the next. And
it worries me because that, man, if they ever do get, I guess, charged or convicted of selling that, it could be years and years in jail.
He's more worried about the cocoa leaf, which is where they get cocaine from.
Yeah, see, I don't know much about that part of it. I just find it astounding that they can say LSD right on the sign and nobody's there taking them away, Yeah. It amazes me.
Yeah, in a statement from Dana Larson, who is the owner of the medical mushroom dispensary and Cocoa Leaf Cafe on East Hastings Street, he explained how it was possible for his store to function without being shut down or having any serious legal troubles. Larson's shop openly sells an assortment of psychedelic substances and plants, along with cocoa leaf products derived from a plant known for its role in producing cocaine. We've just sat here and talked about that.
Yeah.
Well, there are some legal challenges in regards to the city when it comes to licensing and permits. We are currently engaged in some court proceedings around these issues, but it's a slow process, and we are in no hurry to resolve them, he says. When I interviewed him on another show here, probably about a year ago, maybe just over a year ago, He came on and said that the scariest thing that he believes that he is selling through there is the coca leaf. And Coca-Cola, the brand that was known for having cocaine in the pop, like actual chemically derived cocaine, still puts coca leaf in their pop.
Okay.
So there's no longer cocaine, but there is coca leaf used in making Coca-Cola soda. So the way he put it to us, and I'm completely paraphrasing here, was that if they come after me, they have to go after Coke. And I can sit underneath the umbrella of their lawyers.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't know there was still coca leaf in Coke.
I had no idea. I had right after that interview, I had to go and buy a bottle of Coke and they've got a picture of like a little cartoon picture of coca leaf, and it says made with real coca leaf.
Really? Wow. I have to look at the next one and see.
You're gonna do what I did, absolutely.
Yeah.
So and Dana Larson he does way more than this. He also has the test your drugs out there, where somebody who buys something off the street and they want to make sure it has like nothing that's going to kill them, so it's not laced with fentanyl or whatever. They can take such a small amount to get to this place, get your drugs tested, and with that tiny molecular amount, they can tell them if this is quote unquote clean cocaine or fentanyl laced cocaine or heroin or whatever. Therefore, giving the person that has bought it a fighting chance of not overdosing and dying.
That's awesome. And I have another question for you. You said you were there. Did you go to the cafe or to the store, or to both?
The cafe and the store are together. So when you walk into this mushroom dispensary, immediately to the left is the cache. You can walk around. You've got some Dana Larson books, some peyote cactuses, some information. You can buy posters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then in the back of the store, they have a cafe, and they've got a few chairs and tables set there. And they also have a little patio section out front for the warmer months. So yeah, it's all in one. I got to see it. I got some amazing art when I was there. Absolutely amazing art when I was there. I've got 2 parts of a 3-part series. I'm going to buy the 3rd part when I go back. Yeah, and I also purchased some peyote. Because I have found out in the last number of years that I am Cree, and it is the medicine of my ancestors. So I wanted to have some. I have not used it yet because I do not want to use it alone, but I do have it, and I do have it ready for when I have the right people with me to try the peyote. Yeah.
Okay. Can you consume in the store or in the restaurant part?
Well, I went in and purchased a cocoa leaf drink and sat there and drank it.
Wow. Okay.
And I rolled a joint inside and smoked it outside. Like they don't allow combustion, so you can't smoke a joint in the cafe. But you can. Yeah, I mean, if I wasn't smoking a joint, I could sit down with my mushroom or my cocoa leaf drink and drink it.
Nice.
Easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because I remember reading a story recently about that was another gray area in the law, whether you were allowed to consume in a lounge or not was a problem.
Yeah. In Ontario, it is you cannot combust. So you cannot put flame to, so you can't do a bong with a flame, you can't smoke a joint, but you can dab and you can vape all you want inside. The way a lot of the cannabis lounges got away with it in Ontario is they became quote unquote private clubs, and you had to pay dues to go in. Now, once you are a private club, the combustion is, you're allowed to combust. Because it's a private club, it's kind of like a private home. So the rules become different. But they explained that to me when I was at the Vapor Central a number of years ago. That's how it was explained to me, because they only vape and dab in vapors. They only vaped and dabbed because Vapor Central, as we know, is gone now. But when I was out in BC, I went to the Amsterdam Cafe, and they openly combusted in there. Like, I mean, with very big windows. But again, they are a private club. You have to pay dues, and you have to pay a yearly fee to be, part of the club. It's not expensive, but it's their loophole.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, so however, when it comes to police raids, while there is no guarantee that we will not face police action, says Dana Larson, the Vancouver Police Department have generally made it clear that they do not wish to go after stores like ours. And again, I can understand that after I was out in Vancouver last summer, and I had the people, my iboga, doctor, for lack of a better word, he took me on a tour, knowing my history, like knowing that I am a recovered addict, and he took me on a tour, and he explained to me East Hastings and what goes on, and he showed me where Neil's van is usually parked, and explained to me more of what they do, and in that one quick little drive, I think I witnessed 3 overdoses.
Wow.
And the police and the paramedics, like, I mean, they've seen it so much that it doesn't bother them. I mean, like, if they come, like, I mean, like, if that happened in Nova Scotia, it doesn't happen as much here. The paramedics and the police, it would be frantic. People would be watching. It would be, oh my God, let's get them to the hospital. And in, Vancouver, it's like, okay, it's happening again. Oh, it's happening a half a block away. Okay, my buddies over there got that. Like, they're totally numb to it because it happens, and that's sad. It's so sad because they're not rushing to help the person. They're just there. So they understand that places, and even though they've raided Neil a few times, places like Neil's cannabis substitution project, Dana helping in the way that he helps. They know that this is probably only a few ways that people are actually getting help out there. And, BC being the warmest province that we have, people flock there, especially if they're homeless. Like, I mean, who wants to live in Nova Scotia where you live in snow 4 months of the year when you can live in BC and you live in snow maybe 4 weeks of the year?
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
Larson added that the local authorities have been refraining from raiding his and other dispensaries because it's expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. He expects the reasoning for leaving these stores alone is the same now as it was when unlicensed cannabis dispensaries were emerging in the city pre-legalization.
Yeah.
When asked whether he believed legalization was on the horizon in the near future and how it would impact his dispensary, he offered his thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think legalization of mushrooms and other psychedelics in a manner similar to cannabis will happen within the next 5 years, and probably will take much longer after that. I do expect we will see increased legal access to these kinds of substances for medical and therapeutical purposes, however, said Larson. I agree with him. I mean, we went through 20 some odd years of medical cannabis before we got to legalization.
Yeah.
Larson also added that he would be happy to see an increasing number of legal and licensed shops offering the same goods, even if it meant his store became unneeded. He wants to help pave the way for others and isn't concerned with dominating the market in any way. He felt the same way about cannabis when he was one of the first cannabis dispensaries and doing what he did. I mean, because there was Ted and there was Dana and there was Chris Enns down here. Now, it was happening faster and bigger out west than it was happening in the east. But Dana was part of that. And like I said, he hit legalization and he thought, okay, well, on to the next fight, because we need these natural and psychedelic medicines to be legal, because these are the things that are going to help people, like really honest to gosh, help people. And here we go, LSD microdosing bottles right there, and that's exactly how they are displayed for everybody to see in his store.
Oh, right there. Okay, look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, Larson shared what made him proud about owning his store. I am proud that we are leading the movement to end prohibition of psilocybin mushrooms and other beneficial psychedelics and plant medicines. There is no other place in the world where adults can walk in and purchase psilocybin products, LSD, keratin, peyote, coca leaf, and more. Our store is absolutely unique. And I'd say he's right. According to a Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, activities involving magic mushrooms or psilocybin and psilocin-derived products such as sale, possession, and production are illegal unless authorized by Health Canada or provided through a special access program by the government. LSD and DMT are also considered to be Class 3 substances and are illegal to possess unless authorized by the government for medical, scientific, or industrial purposes. Lastly, possessing the peyote cactus is actually legal in Canada, but its active ingredient or psychoactive derivative, mescaline, is considered a Schedule 3 substance as well.
Yeah. It's when I went and I did iboga last summer. I also did 5-MeO DMT, and I have found out since that part of this SAP program that the government has, I can get a prescription for both iboga and 5-MeO DMT. But then I have to go to a government-approved facilitator.
Okay.
Of which we have none in Canada.
Oh, great.
So I can get a prescription for it, but there's no place for me to legally then go take it. And this is based on what I did a while ago. There might be, because this was 9 months ago that I did this research, there might have been, they might have approved people by now, because I know that they were looking at people back then. So I might have just lied without intent. There might be people approved now, but back when I was first looking into it, there was nobody approved yet. But I could get a prescription for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I mean, I could apply to get a prescription for it through the SAP program. It absolutely insane what they've ended up, like they said they were going to make it easier, and it has been made much, much, much more difficult and kind of confusing at the same time. Additional Vancouver stores solely offering psilocybin products. Zoomer's dispensary on Granville Street in Vancouver's downtown core is another relatively new psilocybin mushroom retail outlet, and the shop has now been operating freely there for approximately 2 years. I did not go to this one. I will when I go up there. If I don't make it this in a couple of weeks, I have been invited back up in April, and I will do a tour then as well.
I love the name, and I love the sign they have over it.
Yeah, it's really pretty, isn't it?
It is. It's cool.
Yeah. We operate in a gray area and sell for medical use to our members who use psilocybin products to help with various issues, said Noah, who's the store manager at Zoomers. Mugglehead also inquired about what made the dispensary operators most proud about their management of that location. We're so proud when we hear of members who have stopped getting cluster headaches, members who are near end of life and have found peace and a sense of well-being after using our products. A number of members have also abstained from using hard drugs while using microdosing to help with their addiction. These are the kind of stories that excite us and make us proud to be helping our community, said Noah. And oh boy, man, I feel that in my heart. There is nothing better than somebody asking you a question about something and then running into them a month later and they tell you that, wow, my life has improved because of that, because of starting microdosing or now eating cannabis or whatever, they have sought for healing. And it's beautiful. It just fills a person's heart to know that they've helped.
Well, it sounds like you enjoy helping people.
I do.
Can only be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
The Fungi Shop in Seymour Street is one other good example of a new mushroom dispensary operating in the city. That's it.
That's it. I thought there might have been more about the Fungi Shop. But yeah, they've got a pretty little sign sitting on the outside as well. That is on Seymour Street. So I did not know about the Fungi Shop. I have heard of Zoomers. My iboga facilitator has gone there, and he has shared a picture before I even met him. He did that. So there are 2 more for myself to go visit. And of course, there's Dana's dispensary, psychedelics, cocoa leaf, kratom, peyote, LSD, and DMT. They are there for all of your psychedelic needs.
Yeah. Well, we did manage to make it past 12.
Ooh, yeah, that's because I can talk
about
a storm if I really want to. That's our Reefer reports from the Legacy420.com news desk for today, October 6, 2022. And in closing, we'd like to say thank you for watching our Cannabis News broadcast and Psychedelic, because we do have the Mushie Moment, which, by the way, I did forget the little song for. I'm just going to throw it up. It's only 11 seconds because I just realized I missed our song and I feel better. So afterwards, hey, Glenn, guess what time it was?
It was Mushie Moment time.
Okay, I didn't forget it. I was just really, really, really late. And here's something else that you should not forget. You should not forget to catch Reverend Kelly and Al Monday mornings at 10 a.m. here on the Pace Radio Network with the Monday edition of the Reefer Reporters. And with that, I would like to apologize for missing the Mushie Moment song. And thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Glenn. It's been another great Thursday Reefer Reporters.
Well, technically, you didn't miss it. You were just a little bit late. That's it. Peace.
Yeah, peace. Thanks, folks.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's lovely.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.